Guitar amps come in all shapes and sizes. Head cab, combo, modeler, solid state, tube, you name it. Any guitar store employee might tell you that the bigger amps are for big gigs and the smaller amps are for practice rooms. This is generalizing, of course, and I've played many smaller amps on gigs and gotten great results from it, sometimes even better results than I'd expect from like a half stack or the like. For a lot of my gigs, I've relied on my trusty Blues Junior. It's got 15 watts of EL84 power and a 12-inch speaker. And I've used amps like a Fender Deluxe Reverb or a Princeton Reverb on all kinds of playing or recording dates to actually great effect. Really, the only time you need a big amp would be in the context of filling a big auditorium or stadium with your amp. But rarely is high wattage truly relied on nowadays, with miking guitar amps taking a precedent over expecting a guitar speaker to keep up. I think it's actually a big reason why we're seeing less of an output of 50 and 100 watt amps being produced today. Instead, 22 watt deluxe reverb and 30 watt AC30s are about as loud as you'd want to get. And even those are still plenty loud. But even now with the prevalence of home recording, you could be in situations where these amps are too loud for those bedroom levels, especially if you want any kind of breakup from the amp. Small tube amplifiers can actually be a tremendous asset to the home recorder, and they can also get some seriously cool tones. Hey, what's up? My name's Daniel McLaughlin, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed this style of video. I've been collecting a few of these small amps for a little while, and I'm excited to talk about them. Also, that backing track that you're hearing is available on my brand new Patreon page, link in the description below if you want to check that out. So granted that the techniques of volume and mixing exists, sounds can be wildly different. Close mic'd, distance mic'd, mixed low, mixed hot, and you can get a ton of different results from that. One of my favorite guitarists, Blake Mills, talks about how sometimes the softest or quietest moments can actually be the most effective parts in a song. You can actually see this in pop songs, with volume discrepancies literally described in the genre of mumble rap, or better suited to an artist like Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish harkens back to an era of vocalists known as crooners, where the vocalist would be incredibly close to the microphone, with a large big band or orchestra distanced substantially behind them.
The blues are brewing when the wind through the willow blows across your pillow.
The result will be this huge vocal sound that kept up on top of a much louder instrumental section. So why am I telling you this? Well, the same can be said about guitar amps. Small or big, guitar amps can sound huge depending on how they're mixed. But that's the beauty of smaller guitar amps, is that they can absolutely keep up in a recording or live mic'd context. This is especially true with smaller speaker guitar amps, like 10-inch, 8-inch, or even 6-inch speakers. Think about where the frequency range of the guitar lies, and it's firmly in the mid-range, and with the exception of scooping the mids for genres like metal, a mix engineer might try and prioritize that mid-range for the guitar. The first thing he'd probably actually do is put a low and high-pass filter on the track. So interestingly, smaller speakers don't produce that extended frequency that a 12 or 15-inch speaker may create. And so often you get the description of these smaller amps sounding like a record.
This is what I'm using 90% of the time these days. A dear friend of mine, this guy Paul Kennerly, who's an amazing songwriter, producer, I got that amp from him this year, and it's just been on every record. I mean, he told me this secret, and I didn't believe him because I always work differently. He's like, you should never turn the tweeds up past 3.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't believe it, and now I'm doing it. I don't know what happened to me. Maybe I'm growing up or something, but it's always just on 3 or 4. Put any mic on it, and it sounds like a record. It's really easy.
Arguably the most famous of these small amps is the entry-level tier to Fender's tube amp line, known as the Fender Champ. There have been a lot of iterations of the Champ over the years, some including vibrato that are known as the Vibro Champs. There's a Super Champ. A lot of the times they're sold as these package deals with a beginner guitar, which is really how a lot of these small vintage amplifiers were sold in their day. You'd go down to the music store with your kid after he just heard the new Johnny and Santo over an egg cream with his friends at the local soda fountain. The kid's wanting to get an expensive pedal steel, but the store clerk suggests starting out with a lap steel, like this Gibson BR-9. It comes with a clean amp that matches the color scheme, and it won't get too loud as to disturb Dad in the other room listening to the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet on the family radio.
Hi, Joe.
Say, Ozzie, I understand you and Harry used to play football together.
Clara, please.
Kalamazoo Model 2 comes from similar student beginner origins, although this one comes with a tremolo effect, which I made a video on. With such a distinct depth of oscillation, you'll actually see these amps floating around the LA gigging guitarists as a way to add a bit of depth and a unique tremolo to their sound. It also breaks up in a boxy yet kinda cool way. These amps are all often described as doing that Champ thing, as in getting a mid-range heavy breakup at a low volume. And none of the iterations of the Champs did that better than the most recognizable and most used 5F1 Tweed Champ. The 5F1 carried off of the 6-inch speaker-touting 5E1 from 1955, with the 5F1 sporting an 8-inch speaker. The amp starts to break up around 4, and really doesn't shake the house at its maximum volume of 12. The sound of this amp is heard way more than you'd think, with legendary tones coming from Jeff Beck's "'Cause We've Ended As Lovers," James Gang's Funk 49, ZZ Top's La Grange, Joe Walsh's Rocky Mountain Way, and Derek and the Dominoes' Layla, all coming from the small Fender Tweed Champ. A big reason these smaller amps are so desirable and usable is because of the ease of getting more harmonic richness from working power tubes harder. Speaker breakup is definitely a factor too. There's even a story about the Kinks getting a small Epico tube amp from a hobby shop that eventually had its speaker cone sliced with razor blades. That breakup tone became the growling sound you hear on You Really Got Me. Steve Cropper's amp of choice was actually a Fender Tweed Harvard when he was playing with Booker T and the MGs. But it's been speculated that some of the tones could have come from a Tweed Champ. Economy of tone is definitely a thing too, and with most of these amps sporting only 1 or 2 knobs for dialing in a tone, I bet you can find a sound much quicker than you can with a more complex amp. I definitely think there's room for consideration of a larger amp still. Most of these small amps are single channel, often don't have reverb, may not even have an EQ section, so it's far from a one-stop shop. But hey, if you keep one around for a change of pace, it's definitely worth it. Anyway, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you haven't yet, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.